Thanks for having me today. I'm presenting on data that's been captured in our ACES system, or you may know as the portal. I think most people would know me. I've seemed to have been a bit notorious over the last 2 days because I tend to be the person that emails from the Central Assessment Unit to complete information on incidents and injury forms. And this is one of the reasons why I send those emails to get that information so we can capture this data. Before I start showing you what we've captured, I just need to give you some history and background on why we've got this human organisational factors data. So back in 2013, 2014, the Mine Safety Advisory Council commissioned a review into a number of serious injuries and incidents. So it's coming up to 10 years now. I've been here, 12, I think. So definitely in the time I've been here. And that report that would be developed was known as the Wilkinson Fatality Report. So I presume most of the people in the room would have had the opportunity to read that report. But one of the key recommendations that came from that report was around human organisational factors. So drawing on the discipline of human factors, including human and organisational factors expertise, identify the reasons which make it more likely risk controls will be successfully and reliably implemented. So moving on a couple of years later, in about 2016, there was a tender process. Keele Centre was awarded that tender, and they helped Mine Safety develop a human organisational factors tool, which was based on the HFAT model, which some people may see through other areas in human factors. We tried to make that tool more tailored to the mining sector, and the aim of the tool was to try and strengthen critical control management. Moving on another year, the tool was developed and was actually developed into our ACES system. So everything that's on the portal that's put in incident, if it's then identified that a human organisational factors assessment is required, I've done all the human factors assessments in the database, so I suppose that's a common denominator there. But not every incident, of course, is flagged. These are normally flagged at our morning meeting, so when the principal inspectors get together first thing in the morning, 9 a.m. Meeting, they identify the incidents where a HOF, as we like to call it, will be completed. And normally that gets ticked through the portal, and that creates another process for me to find and do those assessments. In March this year, we engaged the Keele Centre again to look at what we'd collated and what needed to be updated as a result of those of the data that we've captured, but also update our tools. So we've got we've also got behaviour analysis in that. We've got a definition guide. We've got the taxonomy. So on your tables, I've put a little taxonomy guide that we utilise within the as part of my HOFs. So they're what we call the performance shaping factors. And just recently, last month, all the inspectors in the Regulator went through a refresher, or for the first time with our new ones, human organisational factors training with Nicole Gray from the Keele Centre, plus myself. So what did we do? So as part of that review, I got the Keele Centre to also interpret the data. So, it's me that does human factors, but we need it's good to have some outsiders looking in on that. So they helped the Regulator interpret that data. So I had, at that stage, I'll click through it, we had 267 incidents, or HOF assessments, I should say, that had been completed and updated and looked at. With regards to that, we only assessed one behaviour, so so that you're aware of that. With that, there was 197 involved incidents in coal mines, 56 large mines such as metalliferous mines, and then 14 small mines, so quarries were also captured in that data. Just to give you an idea what our tool looks like, up the top is your traditional look at doing maybe what an incident investigation is like on your site. But with the HOF assessment, we go through a number of processes. So we look at defining the behaviour, and then we identify the existing task controls. Then we look at error or intentional non-compliance, and they're broken down then into, say, your sensory, your thinking, or your action error for unintentional, or with intentional non-compliance, your routine, situational, exceptional, or sabotage. We then examine the performance shaping factors, and then we formulate recommendations or actions. So with us in the central assessment unit, if a HOF has been done, those actions or recommendations that come from that HOF will be discussed with the person that's put the incident in as suggestions. So the inspectors or me will make that, inspectors in the central assessment unit or myself will make that phone call. So what's the data telling us at a glance from doing these assessments? So the reviewer has broken down the data to confirm the types of behaviours in the identified analysis. And as you can see, the vast majority are unintentional. So we're looking at sensory errors, thinking errors, and action errors. And then the biggest one in the intentional non-compliance are your routine errors. Not routine errors, routine non-compliances, I should say. There was 0 sabotage behaviours were uncovered. I'll keep going, sorry. What we also found interesting was this trend occurred no matter the type of mining, be it coal, be it metalliferous, be it small mines, it was the same trend across all incidents. So some key takeaways first off with the data at a glance, and we've got some key takeaways through this whole data as we go along. So if you're doing an incident investigation, your default assumption should be that it's unintentional error, and that if you think that it's unintentional, that you need to have some really good data to back up if it's an intentional non-compliance. So we know that most of the intentional non-compliances are routine, that we know that those intentional non-compliances are influenced by the organisation, and most of the time it's up to organisation to manage these. So why are they occurring? I see a lot of it come with vehicle interactions with POS comms. Person didn't use POS comms. And normally that's why is given, they're not using POS comms. That's put in all the investigations a lot of the time with vehicle interactions. And sometimes there's that assumptions made by workers that the person's, they just know I'm there. But we always see that around POS comms, around that intentional non-compliance. So what, as an organisation, can we do to ensure that we're not having those vehicle interactions and people are using POS comms? So we need to think higher up that tree within the organisation. If we know that there's no sabotage or negligence which is coming up within these assessments, then why do we focus so much on trying to blame the worker? Why are we trying to focus our investigations in that area? Should we be focusing them on the error types and trying to manage them within the organisation? And with we know this, there is heaps that can be done in the proactive space. So a safety critical task analysis or a human organisational factors assessment at a risk during the risk assessment is a great starting point. So I'm going to look at the PSF, so the performance shaping factors, which is that, as I mentioned, that taxonomy that you have on your table. So what is a performance shaping factor? So the main aim of a PSF is to identify the behaviour which is degraded and influence that incident to occur. But we break it down into the actual 5 factors, as you'll see, starting from left to right. You have your individual, your job, you have your environment, your team, and your organisational factors. So when we do these assessments, we consider each of these performance shaping factors as outlined in your taxonomy and how they may have influenced the incident to occur. So that's it up there. And it's just there and in tables there. So from the assessments completed, the most prominent performance shaping factor is in the organisational space, so in the safety management systems. And so people who can't see the little red and blue, the blue is the unintentional and the red is intentional non-compliances. So that was the most reported performance shaping factor popping up. Then it's environmental conditions, individual non-technical factors, and then task demands. So to make it a bit easier, we just put them up. They're the top 5. So we have safety management, environmental conditions, individual non-technical factors, task demands, and individual technical competence were the ones that were popping out the most. So let's take a look at the performance shaping factors and what the data is saying. So risk management impacts across all the behaviour types. That's what we see with regards to the organisational factors. So we're looking on that the right side now. I think it's the purple one on the taxonomy there, on the organisational factors. As does checking, inspection and monitoring. Fatigue risk management has an impact across sensory areas, as you'd gather, because we tend to see fatigue. You know, people may have a microscope or they haven't seen something or something, and those types of incidents tend to occur when there's low circadian rhythms or at night time. Sometimes we see those pop up. The other one is around contractor management. Okay, so we identified that it impacts thinking and all mistakes. So my question to the room is, are we really setting up contractors for success? Sometimes I see in these assessments, and when you find out and they do the incident investigation occurs, if something goes wrong, then the contractor is the normally one that goes. They're the ones that are terminated. And then we just replace the person back again, maybe to have the same incident again. So are we just replacing one person for another person to have the same error again? Or are we going to look at the organisational factors to try and help that contractor and set them up for success? So there's some key takeaways from the safety management system performance shaping factors. They are, safety management is a large category, which may explain why it's number 1. So as you can see, there's a lot of things you can tick along that process. Regardless, they're specific performance shaping factors which are constantly popping up in the data. Okay, so when I see a lot of ICAMs come through or incident investigations, and there's some really, really good ones that come through past my desk in the Central Assessment Unit, we're really good at looking at other things, but are we really retrospectively looking back within the organisation? I don't see, you do an ICAM and it may follow some of these philosophies of a human factors assessment, but sometimes we're not addressing the organisational factors which has influenced that incident to occur. Systems designed to improve performance can impact in a negative way. So we've got to consider all the factors. We may think of a system, but it might not be right. I remember Sarah spoke about yesterday about those empathy maps and stuff like that. It's part of what we call in human factors around participatory processes, or when we do hazardous manual tasks, participatory ergonomics. It's about getting the workers involved, finding out why these incidents occurs, and maybe they've got a better solution or a better way of doing it that might actually help update your safety management system. And the safety management is an organisational factors managed and improved by the organisation. So we need to think of it as that perspective, as a holistic thing, that everyone's involved in it, right from the top, right to the bottom. With regards to work environment, temperature, humidity and light have an impact across the board, but especially sensory areas, which is not uncommon, as you'd see. Excuse the pun. As does time of day and roadway conditions. The roadway conditions pop up a lot, and sometimes in the incident investigations with vehicle interactions. With personal factors, so individual, non-technical, situational assessment has the biggest impact across all behaviour types and is the most commonly occurring performance shaping factor. But the thing to remember, that it never appeared on its own. Like, yes, it was identified as an issue. Like, person, might have had. I seem to find people had poor situational assessment awareness. That's the operator. That's what caused it. That pops up. But the thing is that it's not just sitting with the personal factors. It goes across other factors within that taxonomy as well. So some key takeaways from individual non-technical. Again, it's likely it goes situational assessment is a common PSF, and it's likely that it goes hand in hand with other incidents involving human factors. But we should be avoiding the fact of saying more situational assessment is needed by the operator or by the worker. And like I said, we do see it when it comes through, and now those 4 boxes I asked you to fill out, I sometimes see that a fair bit. Because we know that it's greatly influenced by other factors. Job factors. Oh, I better go that. Task demands impact all the notable behaviour types. Mental demands of the task impacts all behaviour types. Time pressure has a big impact on behaviour types. And the thing I want to say about time pressure, even though when I speak to the mine and the people that are filling out the information or completing investigation reports, it's not so much about, there's no time pressure, but it's the person's perceived time pressure, and that sticks out a lot in people's statements that come through to the regulator. Oops. I think I went too far, sorry. Might just click that. So with the key takeaway, I'm going too far, sorry. Key takeaways from task demands. Task demands have a notable impact on performance and create issues that lead to all types of error and non-compliance. Task demands are aspects of the job that be considered more proactively. So again, that safety critical task analysis can also assist. Inspectors and leaders can also ask questions proactively about the task demands that team members are facing, including questions about time pressures, mental and physical demands of the task and/or workload. So we also speak about unintentional behaviours, and the key things with that, so some PSFs are more prone to impacting thinking areas, so those things that pop up, so they can be fit for purpose equipment and tools, risk management arrangements, level of experience and procedure accuracy and completeness. And while fatigue, temperature, light, humidity, time of day impacts sensory and action errors, as I've already indicated. With intentional non-compliance, most PSFs in the top 10 are better defined as organisational issues rather than individual issues. And intentional non-compliance is seen to be an individual decision, but is often impacted by the organisation. And so they're the top 10, if you want to take a quick photo of those, they're the top 10 performance shaping factors that are sticking out in our data. As you can see, the most common is the situational assessment, but as I indicated, that is impacting across other performance shaping factors as well. So it's just not the individual, there's other things that are impacting that to occur. So what are the key takeaways in summary before Meg starts pulling me off the stage? Point 1, So whilst most human factors issues are created by the organisation in which we work, I challenge you when you're completing your investigations, there are some, and like I said, there's some great ICAM investigations, but realistically ask yourself, how often do you consider the organisation in influencing your incident or the incidents that occurred on site? So we know that there are certain PSS that have an impact across many incidents. Then why are we seeing the same incidents keep occurring? And I can tell you, I can see the same incidents come into central assessment all the time, and we fill out those 4 boxes, but are we implementing what we're writing down, what we're saying we're going to do, and to control the issue? Many of these can be managed in a proactive way. So as I mentioned, you can look at a safety critical task analysis. And look, the collection of specific data to help you develop a step-by-step description of the activity. So you can look at individual tasks, steps required, technology used, the sequence of steps, and again, the task description. That would be better at identifying issues with regards to error, performance evaluation, and process charting technique. And we can target our known systems. So maybe we can be asking specific questions. Maybe the regulator could be targeting our assessments based on what we're coming across with those top 10 performance shaping factors. Thank you.